Okay, it looks like we're live. Oh my goodness. Welcome to Isekai. Why doesn't anyone want to go home anymore? Our anime panel of the morning, is it? Or is it evening? I'm in California, and our guests are from all over. There we are. Oh, what a wonderful circle of people. Sakura, can you introduce yourself?
Oh no, we're starting with me. Uh, Hello, hi.
Yes.
First, let me check. Am I on mute? No, no, I'm not. I'm seeing things working. Okay. Hi, I'm Sakura. I am a big anime fan. I actually grew up watching anime because I didn't know that anime was the Japanese thing. I just thought they were like everything was anime. So I grew up watching anime. Um, I do a lot of Twitch streams when I am not organizing a con like Octocon, and I do this thing where every season I go and watch the previews of what's coming up. And yeah, just last season there were like 9 isekais anime that was airing, so that was a lot. But yeah, so I mostly live in the anime manga world and some streaming.
Hey, Faranae, are you ready to honk at us?
Honk. I am Faranae. I am a horrible goose. Currently running virtual ops. Not currently running. I'm not looking at the Discord. I promise I'm not looking at the Discord. Yeah, I got into anime when I was like 6, and I saw the remake of Tekkaman, which I was entirely too young for, but I've been watching since. And I'm baffled by current isekai because when I started watching isekai with Escaflowne, everybody wanted to go home. They ended up in terrible places that they didn't want to be in. And now everybody is just having a really good time in fantasy worlds. And they can't go back home, even if they try.
Excellent. I think we're on the theme. Angri, how about you?
Hello, everybody. My name is Angry, and I'm from Russia. I'm currently in Moscow. I've been a fan of anime for eternity, but currently I'm not really watching too many shows. Um, I think my knowledge in Isekai might be a little bit outdated, so I'm looking forward to hearing a lot about new ones. But I do love some escapism, so this is my niche, I think.
I think you're up, Lynn.
Yeah, I think that's me then. So hi, I'm Lynn or SL Dove Cooper or whatever you want to call me as long as you know it's me. And I think like everybody here, I grew up watching anime without knowing it was anime. And I think Escaflowne was my first isekai as well. And I actually also am slightly out of date with isekai. The only anime I've watched recently is Hamafura, so I'm also looking forward to getting some new recommendations and just chatting about this anime. It's going to be fun.
So fine. I should say a little about myself. I'm an anime fan, but not an isekai expert. I come mainly from the watching acres of Makoto Shinkai. So weepy things like your name. This is, and of course, the first isekai I turned on this week begins with the character being struck by a truck to be sent to another world. So I think I have been plunged immediately into modern isekai in true Trucken fashion. Um, so maybe we should start with the contrast between old timey isekai, where you would fall into a book and then you would be in this horrible place, and you would struggle with your friends and battle your way and maybe get home and maybe not. And now where it's like, wow, this is a really cool place and let's just stay here forever. um, yeah. Does anybody want to jump in on that topic? Or shall I call names?
I think in my limited experience, modern isekai is just basically we can't go back because we're actually dead. So, there's nothing to go back to.
Yeah, it's very escapist because it's not like they're having to resolve the problem, or they often adapt really quickly.
Yeah.
They're just like, oh, I'm dead. Well, that's closure. Let's move on.
Yeah, I think possibly the one exception to that that I can think of is a sentence to a bookworm, where she also has to adapt to, okay, I have a disability now. Yeah. And I'm a tiny kid again. But again, that was a very, very quick adaptation to, okay, this is my life now. I'm going to move on.
Yeah, not everyone is dead, though. Some of them just gets transported in there out of nowhere. And the funny thing about modern isekai is that they have actually stopped explaining how people got there. There was that one that I was watching last season, which was Drugstore in Another World, where the first episode was like, oh, this is me, these are the people working with me at the drugstore, and then they cut to the actual shot of the person, and yeah, hi, this is me, and you can just see at the top saying their name, and they're saying, recently isekai'd, and then they just move on. I was like, how did he get there, though?
There was another one that did that too. I don't remember which one, where it opens and it's like a voiceover narration of, yeah, I used to live in the normal world, but I got isekai'd, and here I am. And you have like no idea what their life was like before anything.
I think it's like living in a postmodern world is just isekai. Here we go.
Yeah,
everybody knows that.
I really like that self-awareness that is inherent in I got isekai, and that's just it.
And yeah, we're using it as a verb now. I know Faranae hate the fact that we're using it as a verb.
No, I actually think it's a fun linguistic quirk. When I lived in Japan, English speakers did it all the time, where we would merge the two languages that way. So yeah, and in the older anime, people were like, they could go home, or they thought they could go home. In some cases, they couldn't actually go home, but they tried really hard to do it. And they had motivation too, because even if their life in Earth was bad, life in the New World was even worse. Because they end up in like some war-torn country.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they end up. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to point out MacLaren-Wray.
Yes.
Yeah, where they're the chosen ones, and
yes.
It sucks.
And they get PTSD, and then they're finally back, and they're like, you know what? We have to go back to that world again.
We feel responsible, and we have to go back. Like, it's a feeling of responsibility rather than because it was fun. It's more because they feel like because they spent so long there and they were supposed to be the chosen ones, that they're responsible for that world rather than it being something they're embracing. The other way you see this is the Escaflowne movie. The resolution of that movie is that the main character has to both embrace living in the new world and embrace the possibility of living in her old life and what it's like. Because the very beginning is that she has suffered a career-ending injury. And so she doesn't want to live her life there, anymore. And she doesn't want to live in the crap sack world either. And she has to embrace both. And only when she embraces both does she get transported back home. Sorry, spoiler for a very old movie.
Yeah, it's been a very long time since I watched that.
It's been 20 years. I'm allowed to spoil it.
Yeah.
Yes. It's fair game.
But like, so for some of them, the world that they end up with are actually worse than the world that they were in, like from the beginning. Because there is one who came from, so I don't know if any of you know Now and Then, Here and There.
Oh God.
It's a very depressing anime about child soldiers and about a lot of other very serious topics. but yeah, the boy that gets thrown into the new world came from like normal modern day Japan, and he gets thrown into this world that is just like all war, and now he has to escape, and now he's a child soldier. So it's like, it's not like the new world is always a good world in the older isekai. It's like, you know, it's sometimes most of the time it's a crappier world than where you're from. It's just it depends on like which one's the better world. Sometimes it's the new world, sometimes, you know, it's the bad world, but both of them are like the same. They're bad.
Well, let's go back to basics then. You know, you guys have been talking about Escaflowne. A lot of people who are tuning in who are not familiar with that may be more familiar with Spirited Away. You know, let's talk a little bit about what these stories really are like. That you're starting with a person who's unhappy in their current life or happy in their current life, and they end up in another world. So what draws you into that world to as a viewer to enjoy this kind of a story? Is it that it's a new world, whether it's good or bad, or is it the journey that the hero or the heroine takes, or that, or, you know, alone or with their friends? And here's a good one. If you were transported to a world like that, would you want to stay there?
Yeah, I think for me, as I mentioned before, it's an escapism point of this whole scenario of getting somewhere else. And also it's a classic call for adventure. So I really enjoy those stories because they are telling me that there's something more out there, despite this mundane kind of everyday life. And this is what's luring me into the new worlds all the time. And so, yes, I think that in the majority of cases where I'm presented in the story in an isekai setting, I would definitely say, yeah, I should stay. This is a good life they're having. That's very different from being a normal school kid. And for me, that was especially relatable because, well, in Russia, there's always like it's snowing most of the time, not most of the time, but you know what I mean. It's like you're looking outside and it's always dark and there's no green. And then all the anime that are flashy and the new worlds are there, and suddenly you're transformed into this not a schoolgirl anymore, but you're like with a giant robot or like, you know.
I mean, if I got a giant robot, I would want to stay in the new world. It's
right?
True.
Yeah, have to agree that. If you give me a giant robot, I'm going to stay there because giant robot.
Yeah, and also you can be piloting it or romancing it, you know.
Romancing a robot.
Or you can get a cute sidekick that can just give you basically anything because it's a god.
Yeah.
That's always very convenient if you have godlike powers.
Yeah.
I think we may be getting to be. We may have already gotten to the answer of why nobody wants to go home anymore.
I mean, honestly,
characters have discovered this.
I feel sometimes like we're living in someone else's isekai. Like this is the crap we've been
That's
transported. Have we been dropped into a horrible crap sack world from a 90s isekai and we don't know it? We've been truck-pooned.
No, give me the isekai where, you know, it was the drugstore. They were just running a drugstore. I would go to that world.
That would be fine.
Give me the happy, cheerful isekai where you build communities and have friends.
Exactly.
Not the ones where you have to go to war as a 14-year-old.
Yeah, no, not those. But
or the one in the 80s where everybody dies by the end. Literally everyone dies.
I mean, technically that's everywhere anyway, but
not in a horrible way, though.
This is true.
But yeah,
mostly.
But I think, I don't know, for me, what was the original question? Sorry.
What draws you to isekai?
What draws me to isekai? Sorry, thank you. It's just that I think having see people get dropped into a new environment, and just see how they adapt in that new environment is very fascinating to me, has always been fascinating to me. So, and just seeing how it could be different, like circumstances could be different, and how it's basically exploring a different culture, because, you know, oh, here we do this, but there they do that. So that has always been fascinating. And that's why, but whether I would like to be isekai, it depends on the world. Really depends on the world. There's that one isekai where it's just about food, and it's just people eating food, where our food being made in another world, and everyone's going, oh my god, this is great, why haven't we done this before? I want to go to that world.
That sounds like a fun world. Sorry, go ahead.
I was thinking, isn't that how one of the characters in El Hazard copes with the new world? She just starts opening restaurants all over the new world.
I need to rewatch El Hazard.
Yeah, she does. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I just said I need to rewatch that, because that's a very old one.
Yeah, I thought Dove was going to say something.
Oh, sorry.
Oh no. I could say something, but you know, Sakura just said everything that I wanted to say, so.
Yeah.
Well, that's not fair.
I'm sorry. I should stop reading your mind.
No, it's fine. I was reading your mind at the beginning of the panel, so it balances out. No, but I think I'm very much the same, in that what I like about isekai is you get dropped into this different world, and you get to watch people adapt to it. And unlike what you get with you know, normal fantasy, is you get a very, very clear outsider's view. So the contrast between our world and our sensibilities and this fantasy world and the fantasy culture is a lot clearer, because it has to account for the fact that, you know, this person not actually from this culture. And that's just fascinating.
So it's partly, yeah, go ahead, Faranae.
I was going to say, I have just like a completely different reason for liking isekai.
Oh no.
I'm not being a horrible goose. It's actually what I like about especially the older isekai is they use the form to explore topics like depression and social isolation in a different way than hitting it head on. And so that's what appeals to me, is seeing these stories about harder topics like social isolation at a remove from one's personal reality.
That is such a good point. I can see older me finding myself in that point as well.
It's almost like the whole thing is the entire experience is a finding the center of a new universe by putting yourself into it.
Yeah, and having to figure out who you yourself are, because it's part of adapting to the new world. Because if you don't know who you are, you're going to have a very hard time in the new world.
And the whole process is very character revealing. So it makes these kinds of stories more character centered than some other kinds of stories.
It can, if that's the theme that they're going with. That's why I'm sort of like, modern isekai are kind of weird, because they're just very escapist. The character adapts so quickly, you don't get to deal with those topics.
I can still see that, though, in the two modern isekai that I do know.
Yeah, that you always have a few, right? Which ones are you thinking of?
Ascendance of a Bookworm and My Next Life as a Villainess. They adapt really, really quickly. Which, you know, I think is just part of modern isekai. But you still have that importance of knowing who you are as a person, especially in Ascendance to a Bookworm, because she's just obsessed with books. And it's just the fact that she knows, you know, I am a person who loves books, that just drives the entire plot forward.
Yeah.
It's interesting that we've started talking about adapting, and there is this, you already mentioned it, by the way, Vanessa, your name. anime that has some bits of isekai in it as well, as they are transformed into another person, like they travel souls, so to say, and switch their bodies throughout time as well. So it's a completely different world for them, and they adapt very easily, like frustratingly easily for me, between being a high school boy working in a restaurant and switching into a high school girl having this sort of very intricate relationships with religion as well, and they just like, yeah, fine, like boobs, and that's it. And I'm like, well, seriously, that's it.
To be fair, they had each other's phones, and that they were kind of teaching each other how to live each other's lives. Oh,
yeah, but I feel like it's not as deep.
But if we're going to go slightly off into anime that has traces of isekai, you can also see that, I think, in A Whisker Away with the cat mask, and the protagonist having to choose between being a human and being a cat.
Yeah. And further out, you see it in Natsume, because he can travel between both the mundane world and the spirit world, and a lot of spirits kind of want him to cross over and stay crossed over, and it's a constant choice he's making, because he does have the ability to just go and stay in the spirit world. There's even an episode where he basically goes to someone else's paradise very briefly, because they were supposed to go there and they got trapped on the mundane side, and sorry, and he turns his back on paradise. And you're sort of like, you could choose the isekai, you could choose the best isekai, and you didn't.
Well, with Natsume, it's pretty easy to say that he lives my dream, at least, His real life is something worth staying, I think.
Yeah, I think that's true too.
Well, I think if you have the ability to just go whenever you want to, that adds into it as well, because then you can just be like, okay, I'm going to go because now I need break. I think that's a different kind of dynamic as well, if you just genuinely have that ability to choose.
Yeah, and in his case, he knows he has the ability to choose, so...
You don't get that same desperation that you get from the people who are trying to get back home, or the people who has no choice but to adapt, if you have the ability to choose between this world and that world. Like, it's like, getting your cake and having to eat it as well.
Yeah.
Well, that would change the stakes in the story if you have power. Having power and not having power are quite different situations. Before we start we're starting to have some questions come in, as certain people know. And I wanted to kind of just do a quick round robin and have everyone tell us your favorites in this genre. You alluded to them a few times, I think, but maybe some direct recommendations, because I'm sure there's people tuning in who are like, what is this genre? So can we just do a quick round robin? I'll start with you, Sakura, since you're like you're right next to me in the Zoom, so you get picked.
I was like, oh, I have time. No, I don't. Okay. My favorite isekai. Okay, it didn't really age well, but my handle as seen me on the internet is Sakura to Miyaka, and that's a big hint right there. So I like Fushigi Yugi, which is about a high school girl that opens a book and gets thrown into the world of that book, and then starts this big romance thing and forms a harem. But it deals with other stuff as well, but at the same time, it didn't really age well. But yeah, that was my first isekai. What would I recommend? I think Magic Knight Ray Earth, but I'm a big Clamp fan, and so I would recommend anything Clamp. What would I recommend? I throw it next to the next person, because I'm throwing a blank on the other ones that I like now.
Well, you save them up and just hurl them out there in the middle of the conversation. Well, in my order of screens, I've got Faranae up next. So
I cleverly use this time to pull up my own notes. It's a little obscure. I actually really love Dual Parallel Adventure. It's aged actually really well, surprisingly, and it's really hard to find though. It's not on any streaming services.
Oh no!
And I just think it strikes a really great balance of comedy and drama, where it was originally a parody of Neon Genesis. And then somehow it manages to turn it into something that stands on its own. And it has the weirdest ending of an isekai. But I won't spoil that, because it's a great ending that breaks all the rules. For something easier, I would say, does dot hack sign count? Is the question.
Are we starting with that already?
We can table that for now.
Let the others answer first, Faranae.
And for the easy one, Vision of Escaflowne, the Escaflowne movie. Just because it's beautifully animated and it really elevates the original series to something much more serious.
I'll say.
Yeah, I really like Escaflowne as well. And I would also recommend maybe a very silly one, but it's my guilty pleasure as well. It's Zero no Tsukaima, or Zero's Familiar, which is I think JC Staff made it, and it's about a boy who gets into this harem situation in another world. And I also enjoy the part where, in any isekai actually, that this character development throws this character into a world where he or she or they actually start developing some more abilities and some more powers that they were not aware of, that lets them also survive this world. And so he appears to be, this schoolboy appears to be also a legendary familiar who's weirdly called Gandalfer. So it's a treat on its own. And it's full of magic, and it's just lovely and comedy, very lighthearted.
I think that's me up next then.
Yeah.
I think I'll make you go up next, though.
Yay! I think first of all, I'm gonna just echo the recommendation from Magic Knight Grey Earth, simply because the way that it deals with some serious topics like PTSD is just really well done, and I really enjoyed it. And beyond that, I think I've made it very clear that one of my favorite anime ever is my next life as a villainess. It's a delight. And I'm going to stop talking now because I will not shut up about this show.
Excellent. We'll consider that a very strong recommendation.
It's queer. It's explicitly queer. I will add that.
Is it?
Oh, yes. That's a topic we can stray into, because anime historically has been pretty weak in queer storytelling. So think in the back of your mind if you have some others that you would like to recommend people seek out. I'll give you a chance to think, because Faranae brought up another topic.
The dangerous topic.
The dangerous topic.
A very dangerous topic.
They have been tabling this question for like weeks now, because they were like, let's wait until the panel. Sorry, Vanessa.
Are you willing to go there? That's the question. Is it really anime, or is it really isekai?
That's the question. Is dot hack sign isekai is sword art isekai?
Indeed. Well, there are all the ones that are I'm suddenly in a video game. Yeah. It's an entire subcategory, and I don't think anyone's mentioned one of those yet, but they're enormously popular.
Dot hack sign is the very first I'm in a video game anime.
The original SAO.
Yeah.
So the OSAO.
And it's only one character who's trapped in the original series.
Mm.
I don't consider it isekai just because you're not in another world. Your body is right here. You're kind of trapped in you're in your head. Kind of. Is that considered another world?
I think maybe we need to consider it like a subgenre of isekai, like a very specific subgenre of isekai, because it does have a lot of the trappings of isekai. It's just your body is not physically in that world.
Okay.
That's maybe a way to approach it. Is like it's a form of isekai, but it's a different form of it.
So yeah. So Anne, what do you think? Is it or is it not isekai?
That's a very good question, because if your body stays here, it's more a cyberpunky kind of thing. But also I've been thinking about this before the panel, and I realized like there was one which was Hack. If you remember that one, they had a huge deal of a lot of series coming into the world from this Hack franchise, if I may call it that. And I think it might be an isekai, and I thoroughly enjoyed it as well. And I think I read, because I don't really watch a lot of anime at the moment, so I had to read a bit about what's going on here at the moment with those gaming things, isekais. And I actually stumbled upon a few titles that were like there are people who died in the game, and so they are now like playing in the game while their bodies are already gone somewhere in the real world. So that's a definite yes for an isekai for me. And another one which I just, maybe you guys saw that, but I'm not sure. It's called Overlord, which from the description, so it says that this person is playing there with non-NPCs, right? So non-playable characters, stayed while the servers like were shut down for the rest of the players, but this one player stayed in the world. Sakura, you said that you watched it?
Yes, well, I watched the first season, and then I never got back to the other seasons because the other isekais took over my life. So, but yeah, I like, see, if he got stuck in that world, didn't he? As himself. No, he just woke up as him, as his avatar. And I think that counts as isekai. But if your body is still in this world, because I count another one that's like that is Log Horizon, where where a bunch of people who were playing a game got sucked into the world that the MMO that they were playing, but it's not as if they left the body behind here. It's their whole being got thrown into the game, the world of the game, and I think that is isekai. On the other hand, I'm gonna throw the question back at you, Faranae. Is Serial Experiments Lane isekai?
I think Serial Experiments Lane is a story about someone trying to make an isekai happen. Rather than being necessarily an isekai itself. I mean, the thing with .hack in particular is that for the first half of the series, as far as anyone knows, the trapped character doesn't have a body to go back to, or may not even be a human in the first place. Like, nobody's really sure what's going on with Tsukasa. Am I remembering the character's name right? Tsukasa. Nobody really knows for like the first half of that series. The audience thinks they know.
Is the audience right? Stories with twist.
I think they get enough clues to eventually figure it out for themselves.
Well, that's always lovely in a mystery. If you think one thing at the beginning and you think another thing in the middle, and then you go at the end.
Yeah, it's very much that. It is a mystery. It is a mystery series more than a journey. Like, there's no journey in that. The hero's journey isn't really the trope. It's the plot narrative it's using. It's using mystery, which maybe that throws it out of the isekai genre.
Well, what about anime that isn't isekai but uses isekai tropes or mechanisms to move their stories forward? And this is out of my wheelhouse, but it's in somebody's wheelhouse because it was proposed as a topic. that isekai story arc elements will turn up in various other anime. And is that helpful? Is it fun? Or does it ruin the rest of the world of anime by filling it with isekai?
I'm not sure. Oh, I don't think I've. Is there any examples of like anime where they take isekai?
Yeah. Somebody has said Gintama does this, but I've not seen that.
I've never seen Gintama.
Because Gintama's a parody series. So like one of the things they do is Gintoki and the gang do the whole Sword Art Online thing where they all end up in a game.
Gintama is an errant anime though, because it tries to be every single genre that is out there because it's a parody anime.
Oh, well, that makes sense then.
Yeah, I think I already mentioned, like, for me, that was Your Name was using this kind of thing. But also I remember another one, which was an isekai into our world. And it was Full Metal Alchemist, of course. There's Shambhala, Conquerors of Shambhala. And they kind of switched over to fighting Hitler in our world. So that was brilliantly done, by the way. So I enjoy this kind of stuff. It's interesting to see those characters using or not being able to use their own world's magic in our world, which is bringing all the layers onto the storytelling.
Reverse isekai are pretty fun too.
Yeah.
So a reverse isekai is when somebody moves from a magical kind of world into mundanity.
Yeah.
And has to cope.
Yeah. Like, what? You can't use magic to light the fire? How do you cope with this? We have lighters. Lighters for those.
But how does it work? No?
It's magic! Just not your magic!
So let's see. We do have a specific question from Twitch, and I'm going to dump that in there before I forget that it's hovering there. So somebody has asked, and I'm afraid I don't have the stream running to tell who posted the question, but do you think, so this is generally for the panel, do you think the kind of oversaturation of isekai anime has caused a decline in the overall quality of anime in recent years, or not? You can go either direction. The question implies the asker has an opinion, but
I will say, personally, I've fallen off anime for a while, and it's isekai that drew me back in. So for me, I would say, it's a good thing. But part of it is probably also taste. And if isekai is not to your taste, it's gonna be a very different experience.
Great, thanks.
To me, I think it's not just isekai that has. It's not just because we have so many isekai that has caused quality of anime to decline. It's just the state of actual, the anime industry in Japan that has caused quality to decline. And it's capitalism at its best, right? If something is selling really well, and therefore you keep doing it over and over again until people get sick of it. And so, yeah, we are very oversaturated with isekai because, as I said earlier, last season, 9 isekai animes were out of, like, how many came out last season? About 40? So...
But that's to your point. There were 40 shows running last season. Like, I remember when I first got into anime, you did not have 40 different shows in a season. There's just so much, and I think, it's not isekai itself that's drawing down any quality issues in anime. It's that you have a whole lot of people working for too little and doing it on a crunch all the time. And so things are getting dropped in order to push out the product.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that I notice that anime is getting lower on its quality. I don't think so. It's kind of not the point. But speaking from my just experience from this panel, yeah, I think I'm gonna go back and watch Overlord again. Like just to check it out because what's going on now, you know? But I do watch some Netflix animes because they still run for 25 minutes, and that's a plus for my lunch session.
I will say I have seen the decline. It's things you see in, like, for example, Sailor Moon Crystal, where you had season 3, which was very beautifully animated, but then when the DVDs came out, they redid a lot of the animation because it was so rushed that, you know, everybody was making fun of the mistakes that were in the actual show as it aired.
Yeah.
But wasn't it always like this? It's you know.
Not to this extent, I feel.
I think it's easier to see the ones that aren't that good compared to the other ones because we have so much.
Mm-hmm.
Because the old ones that weren't very good, they've simply been forgotten.
Indeed. Like I remember the days when I was following all these seasons, right? So I would check all the releases coming out this season and I would say, oh, no, thank you. Not this one. So it's just fair game.
Mm-hmm. So we have a balanced set of viewpoints, and it seems that anime will not die and isekai will remain a vibrant portion of the vast panoply, which is good news because I have, for me personally, because I have mined that trove very lightly at present, so I have much to discover. So as this genre has matured, do you think the themes have evolved? And we've touched on this lightly, that there's been a sense among some of the panelists that the older anime delved a little more deeply into kind of serious themes, and the newer anime is more delving into what we all have kind of needed the past year and a half, escape. But at the same time, are there themes that have kind of stayed with us through the trace? And that might be a good kind of final round robin, because we're starting to come down to the wire on our time here. So big picture, what are the important themes and how have they changed over time, do you think? And everybody's opinion can be completely different from everyone else's. No wrong answers. Anyone want to chime in first, or shall I call names? Faranae.
Me? I mean,
Yes.
I think I've already said that I feel like older anime are dealing with a certain set of themes about social isolation, and maybe newer anime are dealing more with adaptation, embracing what life is. So maybe less escapism and more like, well, we live in a dystopia, so you might as well deal with it. Maybe there's a deeper layer to this than at first glance.
Excellent. Dove, do you have a take on this? You have a knowing smile.
I always have a knowing smile. It's my secret. It's no, I think for me, it's modern isekai are much more about finding community and building relationships with one another, whereas older isekai for me, the ones I've seen have been slightly more about having an adventure in a world that's not your own, and dealing with the harder topics of, what that adventure actually means.
Excellent. Anne.
Yeah, so I've noticed that maybe in the older days we had we now have the established subgenre of isekai, so that there much more parody going on and just utilizing what's being established already. And I think that's a good thing, just having titles like that time I became a slime in another world, or like here is a devil in a McDonald's. It's like a lot more fun is going on in this sense. Maybe we lost something on the road, but it might come back.
Oh, it's me now.
Yes, you're last.
It's you. You're last.
I'm sorry, I picked on you a lot as first.
No, it's okay. I think before and after, like the older isekais and the newer isekais, in differing levels, is about self-growth and like, you know, knowing about yourself, and you know, if whether it's you're a villainess and you already know exactly who you are and therefore you cannot be the queen of a country, or you're still trying to figure out who you are. I think that's to me that's the underlying thing about isekai. And although more of it, the more modern ones are definitely more about the adventures, it's also about like trying to make sure that you don't die, and that you're having a better life than what you had before. Is I think what's, if you have any regrets about how you lived your life in this world, then you get thrown into another world and you treat it as a second life. I think that's what modern isekai is like all about, is second chances. And then the older ones is just, you know, just make sure that I don't die. That's it. Maybe fix the world along the way, but you know, don't die.
Please. Good advice in general. Do we have any other questions hiding in? Oh, there we go. There's a good question. What is the most upbeat, optimistic isekai that you have watched? And I'll start with Anne, because I don't think I've picked on you first yet.
Thank you, but I'll still stick to Zero no Tsukaima, because that was very funny and lighthearted.
Okay.
Okay, because just to me, my favorite is actually that time I got reincarnated into a slime.
Which is pretty true.
It's a great anime. It's a slime that's like just trying to what is it that one of my friends described it as? It is Minecraft in another world. Slime. So it's just great. Another one, I haven't actually watched it, but I've heard a lot of people absolutely loved it, and it's a comedy isekai, was Konosuba. I can't remember what the full title is, but it's well known as Konosuba. So yeah, those are the ones that I think are upbeat and, you know, optimistic. But yeah, it's just building a world as a slime and trying to rule monsters as a slime. I think it's great.
Awesome. Faranae, I'm sure.
All right, you know what? Because I'm a horrible goose, I'm gonna say Kyo Karamao.
That's optimistic. I haven't seen this, so
it's very funny. It is a boys love queer baiting romance. Guy gets bullied, gets his head dunked in a toilet, and that transports him to another world where he is the hottest item in the entire world. It's really funny.
Awesome, cool. We're getting good recommendations here to cheer people up on Monday when the con is over. Dove, what's your favorite upbeat or optimistic?
I'm going to be a broken record and say My Next Life as a Villainess, because it's just she ends up reincarnated as a villainess. And
are you like, being paid to pitch this anime?
No, I just love it. But like she gets reincarnated as a villainess, and she's like, oh my god, every romance this game has, I'm gonna die or get exiled. And she's like, you know what, I'm gonna be a farmer, so if I get exiled I don't die. And then she's like, you know what, all these people that, you know, are gonna hate me, I'm gonna befriend them as a child, and it's gonna be awesome.
Everyone falls in love with her.
Yes, and she's like, I have no clue what is going on. It is also the most error experience I've ever had watching a TV show. So it's amazing.
Awesome. Oh, this is a wonderful note to end on, because I think we're out of time. Are we not, fearless leaders? Yes. I want to thank everybody so much for bringing all this knowledge and fun and deep thought to this topic. I hope we all have a huge lineup to watch in the coming week.
I definitely do.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Bye. Thanks for coming.